This is going to be, whatever the under is on this game, I'd bet the under here because it's going to be a defensive battle either way. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football back at it again. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on everything college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, NFL draft, anything related to American football, hit the red subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. Also hit the like button too, and follow on Twitter/X. That fame is growing. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, we are already in college football season. I know technically week 1 hasn't started yet, but week 0 happened. We already went over a couple of those games. Notre Dame's looking good. USC's defense looks more talented. Whether or not they're talented enough to win a national championship, that's another story here. We're talking about week 1 games. There's a lot of games happening on Thursday, a couple on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday. A full gamut of games coming up here. I want to talk about a couple games on Thursday because there's one that really caught my eye for a couple of different reasons because it's really a gut check time for a couple of programs out there. Let's get going on that. So as you see here, we're talking about 0 week. The fact they just throw it into week 1, like, yeah, whatever. USC, San Jose State, Notre Dame, and Navy, Jacksonville State, San Diego State, Louisiana Tech, Vanderbilt, and so on. Then we got on Thursday. Here's what we got here. So we got Wake Forest playing some action against Elon. They should be favored in that game. Kent State, UCF, Rhode Island, Georgia State, St. Francis, Western Michigan, NC State, UConn. And then the big one that everyone is going to be talking about here. Again, we got a couple other ones down here: South Dakota, Missouri, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Tulsa, North Carolina, A&T, UAB, Southern Utah, and Arizona State. But what we want to talk about here is one game in particular. You know that everyone's going to talk about Utah versus Florida because of how big it was last season. Utah goes to the swamp, has a really good game. Florida, with Anthony Richardson, comes up, takes the lead. Utah is driving for the game-winning score, pick in the end zone. Ultimately, Florida wins. Now, Florida that season ended 6-7. Utah won the Pac-12, so we see how that went. But the game I really want to talk about here is a game between the Nebraska Cornhuskers and the Minnesota Golden Gophers, because for both of these teams, I think it's one of those things where, it's a really interesting time to be a Big Ten West team. They're in a really, really unique spot here. We're going to go into this game and check out why. So we've got our dear friends, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, with Matt Rule taking over. We've got PJ Fleck at Minnesota Golden Gophers doing a good job out there. Again, last 2 seasons, 9-4, playing pretty well. We see the fact that this game more than likely is going to go Minnesota's way, talking about the fact that, again, this game, based on a couple of the preseason predictions here, this is going to be, whatever the under is on this game, I'd bet the under here because it's going to be a defensive battle either way. First thing we need to talk about here is the Minnesota Golden Gophers because they are a much more known product in this game. So when you come over here to collegefootballnews.com, their defensive preview here, it says there's an interesting mix of things happening once again with the Minnesota defense. It was the best in the Big Ten and among the best in the nation in third down stops. It finished 8th in the country in total defense and 4th in scoring defense, and it did it with absolutely no pass rush whatsoever. He said, well, playmaking in the backfield came from Danny Strigo on the edge. He led the team with 3.5 sacks, and the active rotation on the inside worries more about the run than getting into the backfield. Again, what they want to do there is they want to force you into passing situations, get you off the field, and work on from there. Again, you have to stop the run to stop the pass. I've heard that be said by defensive linemen before, defensive line coaches especially. Stop the run to stop the pass. Minnesota does that going forward. Again, like I said, more than likely a defensive team in this game. And you have to think about Matt Rule here. So both of these teams here, let's make sure we understand this. The Minnesota Golden Gophers, their over-under was 7. Nebraska's over-under was 6. But for Matt Rule, when he gets to a team, when Matt Rule turned around at Baylor, he did it with the defensive side. His offenses were okay, but the Ds were great at forcing mistakes and shutting things down in key spots. Last year's Nebraska defense suffered the indignity of getting rolled by a miserable Northwestern team for 528 yards in its only win of the season, and it didn't get a lot better from there. So what you're basically saying here is that, again, despite the fact that they have a new quarterback, despite the fact they have a new coach, despite the fact they've got some solid receivers, they got some things to work with on that side of the ball. More than likely, if Matt Rule turns the team around, it's going to be a defensive side of the ball that he's going to do it with. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try here. Quarterback Jeff Sims comes over, and again, you see the fact here, it's like, wait, Clemson, UCF, Pitt, Duke, West Virginia, University of Virginia, what the hell is with all these ACC and Southwest teams? Well, the reason why was because Jeff Sims, your boy, was at Georgia Tech last season. He comes over last season, he had 1,115 yards. He had 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. Not great stats for that, but he goes over to Nebraska. They've hopefully got a better structure than at Georgia Tech. But again, he's 6'4", he's 220, he's lanky, he's athletic. We'll see what they can do. But again, like I said, more than likely, we've heard it before. Matt Rule wants to run the ball. Again, Minnesota's more of the known product in this instance. They play solid defense. They're able to work with a couple of things like that. They're at home. Jeff Sims, we see, the rejuvenation of the team through Matt Rule. How quick it's going to take, how long it's going to take till they turn around, we don't know that yet. Now, the good thing for Minnesota here is they have a guy by the name of, let me try this real quick, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, who steps in. Now, he wasn't the starter last year, but again, what he was able to do last season, again, especially coming in the season late against Wisconsin in that rivalry game, he won the game 23-16, 19 for 29 for 319 and 2 touchdowns. Now, think about that. That's in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin, in almost December. And he had 319, 2 touchdowns with 60% completion percentage. So, looks solid. We'll see what he can develop into. You see the fact that neither him nor Jeff Sims have very good stats. Both of them come into this game. Well, we'll see. Like I said, this is going to be a defensive game. We'll see what happens from there. But I set the stage with that to talk about kind of the future of both of these teams, because I think it's really interesting to see what's going to happen to both these teams in the same way it's going to happen to the SEC East when they merge with the other side of the league. Again, this is the last year of the Big Ten West as we know it. Next year, it will just be the Big Ten. And again, everybody's going to kind of be playing teams more often. Again, more than likely, these teams in the East or the West will be playing more teams in the East, in addition to playing more teams, Washington, Oregon, Cal, and USC and UCLA. So I said before, okay, so think about this down over here. So look, you can definitely tell the discrepancy between the Big Ten West and the Big Ten East. The Big Ten East has 2, 3, and 7. That's definitely really good. Now the West doesn't have any, slouches. I mean, Iowa's number 25, Wisconsin's 19. But you think about the other teams in there. Northwestern was arguably one of the worst teams in the country. Nebraska lost to Northwestern last year. Purdue loses their quarterback. Illinois loses their top flight corner. Iowa, we're not sure if they can score on offense anymore. Wisconsin has a new head coach. There's a lot more questions on the Big Ten West side. This is going to be a really interesting thing here, because as much as Penn State is the number 17 in the country, and I think they have the number 17 in the country, I actually think that Minnesota and Nebraska have an easier chance at winning the Big Ten championship than Penn State does, because they don't have to go through Michigan or Ohio State. They might have to play them in the regular season, but they're probably going to get to the conference championship game. And again, all they got to do is win one game. That's the big reason why they're trying to get rid of these conference championship games, the divisions, is because you want the 2 best teams, not who wins this division and who wins that division, because it's hard to predict that going forward. But again, Minnesota and Nebraska. I wouldn't be surprised if this has some championship game implications later down the season. Are they going to win the championship game? I'm not predicting that, but I do know that this game right here, Nebraska over under 6, Minnesota over under 7. Minnesota has won 9 games the last 2 seasons, so they've outperformed how they've done. We'll see what happens with this game, man, but I'm telling you right now, this game is going to be more important than you think later on in the year. So I'm sorry to say this right now. Again, Nebraska fans, one of my best friends is a Nebraska fan. And unfortunately, I do not think you guys are going to win the national championship this first year. I'm not even sure if you guys are going to go to a bowl game this first year. It's the first year with Matt Rule. He's taking over. You're going up against Minnesota on Thursday. I really like this game. I think it's going to be definitely a defensive game. It's going to be Big Ten football. It's only 78 degrees in Minnesota. It's going to be humid. It's not going to be too hot. We're going to see one top flight defense in Minnesota and one team that is usually built around defenses in Matt Rule go up against each other. A couple new quarterbacks. We'll see what happens, man. But I do know that this game is going to be physical. It's going to be Big Ten football through and through. All right, guys, get in the comments right now. What do you guys think about Nebraska and Minnesota? Me personally, I think this game is one that I'm looking forward to. I really want to see what Nebraska can do, how they're trying to just generally look. Minnesota is the more understood entity in this instance, but are they going to be potentially a championship team? We don't know. 2 9-win seasons the last 2 years, haven't been in the Big Ten championship game. They should be eventually, but they got to get there first. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.